Module 3, Part 2 is about the development of interpersonal communication. These are the reading assignments. Chapter 6 of World Languages Framework, Chapter 8 of the Teacher's Handbook, a glossary of terms, integrating communication in your language instruction ACFL article, and a collection of world languages resources and activities that you will find very useful. These are the objectives. Be sure you read them carefully to know what are the expectations for this module. Same thing with essential question. Please pause to be sure that you know the difference between these three modes of communication. There are 7 standards under communication, and this week we will be covering the second one, the interpersonal communication. For ELD, English Language Development, that mode of communication, the interpersonal, is called the collaborative, and it means exchange information and ideas, interacting via written English, offering opinions, and adapted language choices. In the introduction of the framework chapter 6, they mention the 6 high leverage teaching practices, and we are going to focus on the 3 first one, facilitating target language comprehensibility, building a classroom discourse community, and guiding learners to interpret and discuss authentic text. There is not interaction, interpersonal communication without comprehension. That's why this practice is very important, where the teacher needs to define new words, present new vocabulary and structures, use visuals and concrete objects, and use also question sequences. First of all, yes, no, moving to forced choice, to finally use open-ended kind of questions. The second teaching practice is related with building a classroom discourse community, and how teachers can do that. By considering a specific language and cultural knowledge before planning, identify the context and topics that will really motivate students, use multiple opportunities for target language communication, provide wait time and scaffolding assistance during activities, really make students facing one another, and also tell students how much time they will have to finish, what the expectations are, and how those are going to be evaluated. The third effective instructional practice is related with building a classroom discourse community also. And the interpretive task is the base for that. We make students to summarize, identify main ideas, introduce tests to develop interest and curiosity, use context clues to ensure comprehension, but to really develop the discourse, we should guide the students through discussions, establishing rules for contributing to discussions, arranges desk in a circle in a virtual instruction. We don't need to do that, of course, but we will really need to have a series of questions to guide that discussions, provide wait time, ignores language errors, and be sure that we clarify or ask students to really provide short questions or more longer questions as needed. These are very good instructional techniques you can use. Paraphrase when you want to explain new concepts. Provide language basics in the form of word walls or sentence frames. Provide, and this is a very good one, multiple scaffolds by segmenting or breaking the learning into small incremental steps. Use repeated, predictable activities and routines to help students feel safe and comfortable. Also, use props, manipulatives, visuals to provide context clues and to make new vocabulary concrete. Body language, gestures, games, color-coded information, graphic organizers, images, videos, posters, etc. All those are good materials and good instructional strategies to use in a classroom. Even though these are functions for interpretation, that we never be confused with translation, because it's not, but we can use them when students interact with each other, like while they discuss, they may do follow a route on an online interactive map, or they need to explain how is the best way to match images, or agree on what would be the best sequence of pictures to illustrate a narrative, etc. So we can always use these kind of activities also for interpersonal communication. Remember, when teaching interpersonal communication, we are talking about a two-way, spontaneous exchange of information. And when designing interpersonal activities, teachers should ask themselves the following question: under what circumstances and in what situations do individuals in the target culture exchange information on the topic, and for what purpose? You have here a list of functions that you can use to plan activities in classroom. We may ask students to give an opinion, to ask or give directions or instructions, share and compare any kind of information, conduct a survey or interviews, or formulate a position statement in public or in small groups or in pairs. And this is a small list of activities. You will find many more with their description under the World Languages resources in Titanium. But here, please pause and be sure you read carefully the description of each of these activities, like the Word Cafe or the poster station, or give one, get one, or find someone who etc., because you will find them very useful when trying to plan a unit or a lesson on interpersonal communication. And listening, speaking, viewing, seeing, reading, writing, and collaborative conversations in general work together to support students' learning. Why? Because an active listening, reading, and writing activities will be part of that, because of there are those activities should be meaningful, purposeful, and relevant. We will need to be sure that in any discussion or collaborative conversation that takes place in class, those are culturally relevant and are intellectually and linguistically rich. And we should provide multiple opportunities to have those, okay, for all these reasons that we mentioned. But we need to be sure that uh, they develop cultural humility, awareness, sensitivity, and intelligence to really develop the cultural and linguistic competence that they should. And these are more part of the activities, instructional techniques we can use in classroom to develop communication, and that you can find under that document that says resource, world languages, resources, and activities. Now it's time to reflect. Be sure that you read these 3 tasks, see how they can be implemented, check all the resources and materials and instructional techniques, and be sure that how, ask yourself, can I identify examples of interpersonal tasks, activities, and functions? How can I now define the interpretive, interpersonal, and presentational communication? In which way they differ, in which way they can support each other. So the best approach is to have an integration of the 3 modes of communication all the time when we teach and what the students learn. If we provide an integrated sequence of students' activities in the 3 modes, that will definitely benefit learning because they will be able to revisit, refine understanding, revise vocabulary and the sentence structures and concept or knowledge from different discipline areas. Talking about integration, be sure that you follow this kind of activities when you plan. Take a few minutes to stop and read it carefully. When students communicate and interact, they will do it orally and also by writing. So this kind of writing can help you with the tools that the students may need before, during, or after interacting. We need to be sure that we also include an integrated performance assessment system in our classroom. So if we want to assess comprehension, we provide feedback. At the same time, with that feedback, students can do presentations. We can use those presentations to assess comprehension. Those presentations can be the foundation for interpersonal communication or the other way around. So all of them are integrated when we teach, when students learn, and when we assess. I recommend you to watch this video again about the 3 modes of communication because it's a good summary and can be useful for you. Please, if you have questions, reach out. You can always email me or call me. I hope you found it useful. It is always a pleasure to work with you all, and see you next week.